Good afternoon, Nerd Fam, and welcome back to surprisingly Arctic Atlanta, Georgia. We're here on day one of 3 days of coverage at KubeCon, but we're starting off a very exclusive and special series with our friends here at Google Cloud. My name's Savannah Peterson, bringing you all the fun with an absolutely impressive lineup next to me to my left. We've got Bobby, Kelsey, and Eric. Thank you, gentlemen, so much for taking the time.
Thank you.
So this is a really cool segment. We are here low-key to party, to celebrate the 10 years of the Google Kubernetes Engine. Very big day today. First of all, congratulations, particularly to you two. This is a big deal. Kelsey, it would be awkward if I didn't open this up with you. You've been a part of this entire movement, I'd like to call it, beyond the project and the tooling, since inception. What is it like for you to be in the room today, look around, get completely bombarded by all of the wonderful open source fans of yours?
Well, number one, we took a project to a product and made it 10 years.
That's like 100 years in normal lifetime.
100%, and someone else there when they were struggling to figure out what to name this thing. And we just put the K in the middle and kept it there as a placeholder. And it stayed there all this time. And the fact that people are still using it for the future of workloads is tremendous.
I love that. Wait, so just take us to the naming room. What was that conversation like? Was it heated? Were you just trying to get something done?
No, the name Kubernetes is a project name.
Of course,
right?
Yeah,
so you have things like BigQuery, you have all these other things. And so you have this open source project, which is not a product. So what do you name the commercial service? And you got to hurry up. And so GKE, Google's Kubernetes Engine, and we'll get a better name later. And so now, but it's stuck. All right, I think it's super clear that it's one of those things that we do all the hard work to make this thing usable in production. And that was the vision 10 years ago, and it's still true today.
It is, and so exciting. I mean, for those who might not realize, not every project becomes a product or a platform or a full-on technology solution. It's a big deal for all the starting projects here in the wings. I hope they're looking up to this and taking a look. Eric, I want to ask you, you've been following the journey, you're very familiar with this space. Did you anticipate that GKE was going to be the just power player that it is now?
If you look at an effort to try and revolutionize what are the foundational elements of infrastructure, I mean, that's a big ask. Right. You think about being able to move from what was a perfectly functional sort of virtualized environment that we've been living with for ages, and to look at what's necessary to actually make that shift happen. To be able to go move, look at all the attempts that people have made to do this over the past, in all these different disciplines. Being able to make that work. Now, granted, you had the advantage of being able to take the word production environments, to be able to prove it out, and harden it, but hey, 10 years, it stood the test of time.
It has.
Well, and now, as we were just talking about before we went live, it's not just momentum right now, we're hockey sticking right now. I mean, with AI, we are totally getting catalyzed. Bobby, what's it like for you on the inside, hitting this incredible milestone?
It's amazing. I mean, it's humbling to have a product, really a platform that's at the center of so many different things historically and going forward, and to see it accelerate, it's just amazing to be a part of that, to play a really small part in it. So here's my food analogy for this.
You know I was waiting for it.
So my daughter is like the air fryer queen, right? Or air fryer princess.
I'm going to have to ask her for some tips.
And so she exclusively makes chicken nuggets in the air fryer, the crispy and all that kind of stuff. I'm a tater tot guy myself, by the way, for your listeners. Tater tots are the superior potato complement, especially little crispy ones. But what changed my life, Savannah, was being at grandma's house one day, my mother's house. She put a croissant in the air fryer. Oh my gosh. It was warm, it was crispy, it was just right.
Were you in Paris all of a sudden?
So that's what it felt like.
Oh, I love this for us.
But I feel like AI is like the croissant in the air fryer. Now that we've had a taste of that, it's like, ooh, this is so good. And so that's what's allowing us to kind of take it to the next level, because we took something and combined it with something else, and now that combination is magical.
Well, now I'm hungry. And also, brilliant analogy. I love that, because it was something you didn't know you could have as good, essentially, is what you're saying.
Right.
When we think about, I mean, so many different things that are powered by GKE, I'm curious, actually, I'd kind of love to get all three of your opinions on this. Kelsey, what's your favorite solution you've seen come to life as the result of the work that you and the team have done?
Honestly, when I joined GCP 2016-ish, it was hard for Google Cloud to get a seat at the table, the enterprise table. GKE comes out, and it's the talk of the town, so much so that it was the first time that I saw GCP inspire and influence all the other cloud providers. And so when we think about a solution, what GKE does, maybe people that haven't looked under the hood, it takes what was traditionally infrastructure as a service and makes it one thing. So before then, you're doing DevOps, platform engineering, you're writing a bunch of scripts and tooling, and I often tell people, Kubernetes is what your system administrators would have built if they had enough time and they knew how to do it. And so when GKE comes out, it was the solution to GCP's place in the marketplace, and it also brought it advanced the art of cloud to the next level. So another big part about GKE that's important is that it became almost the cloud, we almost kind of normalized the cloud around this one API abstraction that no one thought was possible, right? Because before that, everything was proprietary. And we finally got the cloud providers to agree on something. So GKE was the solution to get the cloud providers to agree on something, and we did it.
So not only did it rocket your relevancy, but it also helped create a bit of a standardization across the board so that we could all innovate at the speed we want to without wasting a bunch of money and reinventing the wheel.
Google went all in and it paid off.
I love to hear it. Well, you can certainly feel it and see it in this room. I mean, this is my 9th KubeCon. I've been a part of the community for a long time, and it's really powerful. You can tell that right now, to your point, we are having, I'm going to start saying this all the time, our magic croissant moment, which I am super, super into. Eric, I'm curious, with your non-biased outside perspective, what's impressed you the most or excited you the most as an analyst?
I was trying to come up with the croissant comparison here, but I don't know if I can go quite so far as Bobby on this. I may have to work on that one. The realization of run anywhere. I mean, how long had we been talking about the ability to be able to take capabilities and have some reasonable level of assurance that they can get to where they need to go, especially now with AI. I mean, one of the things that we see in a lot of our end user study data is that as we get into AI, there's this hangover of cloud dependence that organizations look for, and they want to be able to get to open. Containers give them the opportunity to have an interchange, to be able to have that run anywhere, to deliver on that run anywhere promise. And to do it in ways that give them operational efficiency, give them all of the integration capabilities to be able to build in the automation orchestration to really make this stuff work the way they have hoped that infrastructure has run for a long time.
So it's like the full bakery? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
It is the full display case of everything.
Which is really exciting. So Bobby, I know there's some announcements today. 10 years later, where is GKE right now?
GKE is very broad and very deep in terms of what it can support, and I think what's exciting is, I think folks have been surprised, AI kind of was another class of workload, but the number of different things that Kubernetes can support, I think has been amazing, and I want to give the audience a little bit of Greek to expand on those.
Please do.
So English is very word poor, as we know. We use a lot of adjectives, but other languages like Greek will have different words for different things, right? Greek has 2 different words for new. There's neos and there's kainos. Think of neos like a new pair of tennis shoes, like a new instantiation of an existing recipe. Think of kainos like a jetpack, right?
Ooh.
And so what I think is powerful is folks are seeing that Kubernetes can support the new stuff that's like a new iteration of something like tennis shoes, but we're also building jetpacks now. So the fact that it's wide enough and deep enough to have, it's got broad enough shoulders to run things better, but also to run things that are different is what's exciting.
That is really exciting. What are some of the different things people are going to be able to run now? I know there's a lot of announcements around inference, there's a lot of announcements around agentic. Lots
of announcements, and again, we want to come get the audience for those who may not be quite as technical as these gentlemen are up here, and so when I think about this, because there's going to be some other segments to go really, really deep into announcements, if I was going to categorize this, I got to go to Pixar, I want to go to The Incredibles, because I think there are different types of features that relate to the different characters. There's some things that are like feats of strength, like Mr. Incredible, right? Being able to run things like 130,000 nodes in a single cluster. Sometimes you just need more raw horsepower. Other times, like Violet, the one who could be invisible and have the force field, we've got things like our agentic sandbox in GKE, because you need to sometimes protect your old workloads from the new stuff. As the new agents are operating and getting leveled up with tooling and all that, you need to have a little bit of separation. Sometimes you just need speed. You need things like pod snapshots that will let you resume things faster. Other times you want to just be cool and do things like Autopilot to reduce the friction. You got to have a shout out to Frozone, and anytime you talk about anything cool, you got to bring him in. And then some things are just faster, like Dash, where you want to just do things faster than you did before. So there's a whole family of features that come together just like that family, and they together can do things to defeat certain villains in the enterprise that we're facing as we try to take that new ground.
I think you might be the person on the planet who makes this the most digestible of anyone. That was delightful. We've got our own little incredible team. Eric, I see you buzzing to say something right there.
Oh, just all the points that you're making, Bobby, about there's different constituencies that are trying to get towards AI capabilities. They're looking at some of the challenges in agentic, and you got those two ends of the spectrum. You got those folks who are looking to get the templated guidance to be able to get in. And so if you look at a lot of those offerings, the ability to now actually have something that's an opinionated way to move forward. Yes. And then the other end of that spectrum are those applications where you got to scale. And you've got to be able to move to scale to be able to really deliver on the promise of agentic. That's...
And not just scale up, but also scale out.
Yes.
Which I think is one of the big linchpins of what's going on right now. We're talking about sovereignty, we're talking about compliance, regulation. There's so many different things. You got to have the right trusted ally who can actually interface and has thought about that before you even got there, so you can keep running your workloads. Kelsey, I'm curious, if someone had asked you 10 years ago, where would GKE be in that moment? Would you have predicted that we would be where we are today?
I did, multiple times.
Perfect.
I had analogies that Kubernetes was the Linux of the cloud. This is a 20-year technology we're working on. And when you say a 20-year technology, that means an ecosystem is required. This wasn't something that was going to rely on the fad. And I used to say things like, we're building a platform for platforms. Kubernetes is where you start, but not end. And also, this is rare product that the commercial enterprise product makes the open source project better.
Yes.
We always did things that way. So in the cloud, we had one unique advantage. You have thousands and thousands of customers that all want different things, whether it's NVIDIA for the scheduling stack around GPUs, or someone that's just trying to run a web server better than they were doing before.
Right.
All of those workloads are mixed and they run on the same platform. And then it feeds back into the underlying ecosystem. That's very rare that you have a huge ecosystem underneath it. This is why it can adapt, because whenever a new ecosystem spawns up, they look around and say, hey, we might as well start there, versus recreating something. So I'm not as surprised. I'm very grateful that the project is around, but that was somewhat by design.
Yeah, and obviously a part of the vision from the gateway, that relationship between open source and enterprise, I think is a really interesting one, and I feel like you really laid the foundation for how to do that best. Eric, would you agree?
Absolutely. You think about what's necessary to really be able to give flexibility, to be able to give scale, to be able to give something that's, to be able to create an environment that's going to be able to last through so many different iterations and capabilities that
and
have
hype
been applied
cycles
to
at this
it.
point.
Chasms and all the rest, take your pick. But it's being able to put something together that's thought enough about what's really necessary to be able to evolve over time, to be able to adapt. Because even now, as we enter all the craziness that's happening with the velocity acceleration of AI, to even be able to survive that in terms of where it gets to and what it's able to support.
I think there's another key point that's super critical. Google chose to compete on openness. There was very little fear that because a competitor was going to run Kubernetes that we would somehow be at a disadvantage. At that time, remember, Kubernetes sits on top of a cloud, and we often say Kubernetes is no better than the cloud provider it runs on.
Right.
And we had no fear of everyone having access to the similar bits because we always thought of GKE marrying the two. And so I think that decision is what allows us 10 years later to have such a broad ecosystem, because you don't get the ecosystem without being open.
I think that's a really good point. I'm so glad you brought that up. I know you were about to chime in, Bobby.
I want to jump in just for a bit of transparency.
Please.
I was not a believer. I was not. There are people that can find me on video where I was hating on I was hating on Kubernetes. I was, because I saw how many,
spill that tea,
as
Bobby.
I was doing a lot of startup stuff and did a lot of enterprise stuff, worked at banks and all that, I saw them struggling with the tech and the complexity. And I was probably about 5.5, 6 years ago where I kind of turned the corner because you couldn't argue with the data. You couldn't argue with the size of the community. You couldn't argue with the number of Google products that are powered by containers or Kubernetes directly or indirectly. And you couldn't argue with the fact that, I'm going to quote Gary Singh, one of the other guys we weren't selling it, people were buying it. And at some point you have to look at what the community is saying and saying, look, Bobby, you got to get on this train. And so I have to admit, I was not there for 10 years like these gentlemen were. I'm a later convert, so to speak.
That's still a while ago, just to be clear. 5 years ago, Kubernetes land is pretty solid.
And that's probably conservative, but I just want to be honest with the community. I wasn't there, I was one of the skeptics. Yeah. I remember debating with people like Damani Corby and Keith Townsend. I'm not feeling it, I don't think it's there. And so now, I've turned the corner because I've seen what the community's done, I've seen what people have built on it, and I've seen the openness that Google really gave it away to the community, because the whole thing was, it's not about what we're building, it's about what we're empowering you to build. That's when I got on board.
First of all, I love that you admitted that. We're not all right all the time, especially as analysts. You and I both know this gets a little, maybe you're right all the time. I will be honest, I am not right all the time. But you brought up something really, it's interesting that you say it was 5, 6 years ago. For me, it was 5 years ago. I distinctly remember when all of a sudden the light bulb went off and I realized, oh, this is going to be how this works in the future. And it was still, lovingly, clunky and hard and complex. And there were a lot of tools and features and projects that have come around to rally that up, and GKE has obviously matured a lot. But yeah, there was a real shift. I remember for me when I was like, oh, I'm going to be all in on this Kubernetes thing, it'll be a part of my career. And I remember my mom being like, Kuber what? What do those words mean?
There's a saying, it's easy to predict the future when you're working on it. And a lot of us that have built various systems over the years, you saw it when you got in there. And then I think even when it got to cloud, there was still this thing of like, are other platforms going to win? Are other projects going to win? Should we hedge our bets here? And we went all in, and that meant everyone had to work on it. And then we kind of made it be what it needed to be.
I think that's a really good point. Wow, gentlemen, this has been awesome. I have one final question for each of you. No one gets off the hook on this one. Decade anniversary, huge milestone. First of all, congratulations, that's a big deal. 10 years from now, what are we talking about on this stage? Kelsey, I'm starting with you because you said it was a 20-year technology to begin with.
So 10 years ago, we were like, Kubernetes will reach its peak when it disappears. And so we've been talking about GKE a lot here, but one of the lineages was GKE Autopilot, the part where we hide some of that complexity that Bobby was talking about.
Yeah.
When people used to say Kubernetes was hard, we were talking about all that other stuff. And so Autopilot moves us to a world where that stuff is hidden from you. 10 years from now, you'll be using Kubernetes and not even know it.
Right.
There are a lot of people that are using parts of GCP that have Kubernetes underpinnings, and they don't even know it. So I think that just continues for the next decade.
I feel like you could have swapped AI in for Kubernetes as well, in that it's all just going to be a part of where we are. It's going to come meet us where we are. I love that prediction. Eric, I'm going to you next, and then I'll keep Bobby in the hot seat.
I'm going to continue the abstraction message because, again, we abstract away what we do in technology. We abstract away complexity to be able to enable.
Yeah.
And to the extent to which we just simply make the provisioning of the computational environment, the data we need, that much more capable and visible. Absolutely. Less visible, but still a foundation. And how much more atomic can we get?
Yeah, all right, that was nice of you just to concur there. Nice one, Eric. All right, Bobby, what about you? Give us something fun and radical.
This is a tough one. I do think Kubernetes is going to continue to go away, but I think it's going to, I'll make a statement and some may disagree with this. I think Kubernetes' impact has mostly been in the digital world so far. I think we're going to be talking about physical impact.
Ooh, I like that one,
Other
Bobby.
mission critical things, other things that our grandmothers and our cousins can touch that are going to be powered by, inspired by, running on Kubernetes. And I do think we're going to get to a point where we're not going to decide where it runs. The AI often that was trained on Kubernetes will decide the right place to run it, right? Almost to channel the Jamiroquai song, traveling without moving. Yes. You'll be running it at different runtime, which may be inspired by Kubernetes, like a Cloud Run, for example, but it'll just disappear, but I think it's going to be things we can touch.
I like that, the physical world, physical AI, physical Kubernetes, super fun. Gentlemen, thank you so much. This has been inspiring.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. I hope you're all feeling as inspired as we are here in wonderful Atlanta, Georgia at KubeCon. My name's Savannah Peterson. You're watching theCUBE, the leading source for enterprise tech news.